This week's episode of the Good Dude Podcast is brought to you by Embrace Jiu-Jitsu, Hidden House Coffee, and Next Gen Peptides.
He told me at the time, unless I'm like butchering it, that they didn't typically like to do PRP in the back.
Well, that's why I asked specifically a doctor that does only PRP and stem cell.
Then no.
They're very different. Now I work with Maura a lot.
Okay.
A great doctor, and typically the orthopedic sports surgeons do a kind of a general PRP or stem cell.
Yeah.
Meaning, like, if let's say it's your knee, like you did. He's going to inject one spot and it's going to go into the joint and kind of float around, go everywhere. If you go to a specific PRP or stem cell doctor, it's going to be under imaging and he's probably going to inject your knee in like 60 different spots.
Oh, shoot.
So it's very different. It's very technical, very more precise in the different areas. And that typically works much, much better.
Okay.
And so it's just different. And he does backs all day long with PRP and stem cell. A couple docs that I work with,
Dang, I might need
and they
to.
get great results.
Yeah, the back thing, I'm at this point now where it's like, I've done so much, and I was just talking to my buddy earlier, Josh came in, and he did the stem cell in Mexico, and used to be a pro fighter, and now he's a cop. And dude, he freaking recovered from a full knee surgery and went and competed before my back was even close to being better.
Yeah.
And he swears by the stem cell, but I was just too sketched out to go there. And I was like, it would be different if it was my knee.
Yeah.
But dude, it's like by my spine. And he didn't go to the nice one, the CPI. He went to like a different one.
Yeah.
That's like down the street from CPI.
In the alley or something.
Yeah, dude, I think he said he paid like $3,000 or something. I was like, bro, they quoted, CPI quoted me 20.
Yeah.
And I don't have 20
You can do it here and it wouldn't be that much with the guy that I'm talking about. And he's in Newport, works with a ton of like professional athletes.
Okay.
Celebrities. I mean, he's very good. Like if you meet with him, it's worth just even doing a consult. He'll sit down with you for like an hour and talk to you, do all your imaging, talk about everything, all your different options based on what you've seen work, not work. But it all is very much partnered with rehab, doing the right stuff. So that's why we work together a lot because, this will do its piece, but you still have to do the rehab component.
Yeah.
And it sounds like you have done a lot of good stuff, but it's also how it's all paired together and building blocks on top of each other and activating and strengthening the right muscles in order for them to operate how they need to after the pain and inflammation has come down.
Yeah.
And then you build functionally on top of that. And if anything's out of order, then it typically doesn't work all that well.
Yeah, which I'm for sure out of order right now.
Yeah.
Like my Turna wanted to start rehabbing me again, but since my back's been so jacked up this last month, he can't. Because dude, I have like no glute strength anymore. Any singular leg exercise, I'm like out. But then I can go and do all those workouts and exercises we do. But anytime it comes to like a singular leg or leg specific, I'm like, I'm out. But
that's definitely playing into your back too.
Yeah, and that's like the thing. I feel like I just keep going like in this cycle.
Yeah.
And I know it sounds messed up. I'm not trying to be like over exaggerate, but we're like in the last of our primes, like I'm almost 40. Like that's not old, but it's not young anymore.
Yeah.
And I don't want to spend this last part of my life active, like really active, not just like active, but I still want to be competitive in jiu-jitsu. I want to compete. I want to do all these things. And this is kind of like that last true season of that, as you get older, it's like, you can stay active and fit and still do those things, but not at the level I can right now.
Right.
And I'm like, dude, I'm miserable right now.
Yeah. Well, that would be my suggestion is doing something that's the consult wise, doing that with a PRP stem cell doctor, just to getting his opinions on things. Yeah. And then obviously I'm biased, like doing rehab with us in that kind of fashion. The only other thing would be maybe peptides, which we also do.
Which I did peptides. I've been doing peptides on and off since 2022.
Okay.
Anytime my back gets inflamed, I'll do, the BPC, TB.
Okay.
I can't do copper. My body doesn't like copper.
Okay.
And then obviously being in the military, I have low test.
Yeah.
And so I like tried TRT for a little bit and I didn't like how I felt on it.
No? Okay.
No, personally. And I also think when I did it in 2022, I know it's not new, but it was becoming more new. I don't think I went to the best place.
I was going to say, where did you go? Because that's a big factor.
I don't want to say it out loud because I think they listen. But I think it was just, and it's nothing against them. I think I wasn't doing it the right way.
Sure.
And then my body started to plateau and now function I was at like 300 or something like that.
Wow.
And I got up to like 900 to 1100 and I felt like great, right?
Yeah,
I was recovering. I was training a lot. That's when I was competing. And even with the back injury, I was recovering better. And then I plateaued again. And the answer was like, oh, we got, kind of got to increase your dose. And I was like, I don't want to increase my dose.
Yeah.
So you're telling me like every 8 months you want me to, that's not what I'm doing this for. I'm doing this to just be feeling good, not get me to that next level.
Yeah.
But I just restarted again because I was like, maybe that's where I'm at. But this time, instead of I was only doing 1 injection a week, like 1 big injection, which I feel like was not beneficial.
You need to do 2.
So now I'm doing the 2. Yeah. I'm only on my 2nd shot. So
the quality of the test is very important, and there's a bunch of different kinds. There's 3 main different acting kind of TRT. And ideally, you're doing the one where all 3 of them are in one, and one of them starts like the first couple days, and then the next one kicks in, and then the last one is like the third and final to get you through. I believe it's like 4 days, and then you do it all over again, and that balances out your levels much better. But also a big part of which a lot of these doctors don't talk about is you should be on gonadotropin at the same time, which is a peptide which increases your own body's TRT production.
I'm definitely not on that.
Right? So, that's the part that they leave out because one of the risks is that if you're on TRT, you're going to deplete your own production of it, right?
Yeah.
So you really should be doing those in harmony. So, yeah.
What's the benefit to using the one with the G? What was that?
Gonadotropin?
Yes.
So that increases your own TRT.
Yeah. What's the benefits, though? Can you do that without taking TRT as well?
Yeah.
Oh.
Maybe that's what you should do.
That's probably what I should do. Mm-hmm. My T is pretty low. It's like 330.
Yeah. I mean, it's crazy. Like we're the country that is the most advanced, supposedly have the worst TRT levels in the entire world.
Yeah, it's kind of it's nuts.
Oh, it's an attack, and to me, don't even get me started. That's probably intentional. The food. I mean,
we say the same thing. We're right there with
microplastics. Like all of that plays a factor into our TRT and our sperm count and consistency and all that.
I literally recently changed all of my briefs to the non-microplastics and all that because I'm for as hurt as I am, I'm pretty. I feel like if I didn't do all the things that I do, I'd probably be even more of a mess.
Yeah,
like I put a lot of work into my body to be hurt all the time.
Yeah,
and I'm like right there with you. I have no doubt in my mind that all of these things are designed that way, and. Like peptides, like I said, I've been using since 2022 before they became like as popular now. Yeah. And, I tell people all the time, like for me, like the peptide was a little sketchy, right? Like I've never heard this. I obviously try to research it. I'm not a doctor by any means. So I try to do like my own dive into it. And then a moment happened where I was like, wait a second. The world and our government was so quick to push a vaccination that already has a bunch of negative side effects known, and they're pushing it on you. Mm-hmm. And then peptides that have really no negative side effects, but a lot of positive sides, and now they're trying to stop it.
Yep.
So something that's proven to be good is getting stopped. Something that's proven to be bad is getting promoted.
Yep.
It instantly shifted my mind to, I'm going to take these peptides.
Right. I mean, it's almost no different with PRP and stem cell. Like they really, at the beginning of those services coming out, really try to bury it and push it down and like, oh no, and there's no negative side effects for the most part, only positives. But what they will absolutely shove down your face is pharmaceuticals,
right? Yep.
Which have a ton of side effects, which they clearly state all the time. Yeah. So it kind of tells you what they're interested in, which it all comes down to money.
Yeah, and that's what we say, and I'm actually really glad. I didn't even think we'd go down this topic, but like we've had a guy that owns a peptide company on at the beginning of the new year, and he isn't a doctor by trade, isn't any of this. He just got into it like the bro science, right? Mm-hmm. Bro gym science, and he got into it because he went through different health stuff, and so then he started researching things. He's like, well, why can't I buy this here? And then so he had to start importing it, and because that's his whole family and friends do import from Taiwan, China, all that stuff. So he's like, dude, if these pharmaceuticals are proven to have all these things, then why don't I take some of these things and do that?
Yeah,
that's our new producer.
Yeah,
already.
he's just back there.
Yeah.
This is great. I'm
Okay.
You guys are crushing it. Everything's rolling.
Yeah.
Good. Don't forget, I text you. Get us group selfie together.
Oh,
Deal.
Got it.
Thank you.
Thank you,
All
sir.
right.
Good seeing you, buddy.
Amazing. I'm excited to watch it.
Yeah.
Love you, Chad.
Yeah. Love you too, man.
You guys are cool.
This guy.
We hired him to do a job, and he
He doesn't even
bails.
stay for the whole episode.
That's messed up.
I'm just gonna leave all this in.
That guy.
We should leave this all
We're
in.
firing him.
Do it.
But no, we had him on, and our whole thing was like, the podcast is obviously like, we want you to share your story, which we're going to get into, but we also want it to be like an aid to somebody.
Yeah.
You know, again, like I've went down the holistic rabbit hole because of my wife. And that happened in 2018. We got pregnant with our first kid, and she like grew up in a typical like Hispanic household where it's like bleach on everything, pine sol, all the things, you know? And then she was like sitting there, and we were filling out like our, I don't know, something, one of the things you do before your child, and they're starting to talk about like the vaccine plan. And I was like, wait, vaccine plan?
Yeah.
Like, what do you mean? Like, just what did I get when I was a kid?
Right.
Do that, you know?
Yeah.
And then when you start researching it, and I think at the time, I might butcher this, but at the time it was like 70 something shots that they had to have by whatever, 5 years old or
age, yep.
something. Yeah. And I was like, whoa, like what? Like, and the one that really threw me was the hepatitis as they come out, giving, you know, they clean them off and then you shoot them with hepatitis
Right.
like vaccine.
Insane.
Like, if neither parent is a carrier and has that, like, why would my newborn need that?
Makes no sense.
No. And then they try to shame us in that room because it was at Kaiser.
Yep.
And that was like when my just like spidey senses, dad sense, everything went off. And my wife actually had to kind of put me back down because I was about to go off on this doctor. I was like, bro, my wife just had like her first childbirth, the most exciting, scary, crazy time, and then you're gonna shame her for not letting you give her the hepatitis shot.
Yeah.
Like what? And
Incorrect.
all she asked was like, do we need to do that right now? Like,
Right.
she just came out. Like,
Yep. Yep. Yeah.
so-
our RFK talks a lot about that stuff,
Yeah.
right? Like that's his whole thing.
yeah,
It's like it's not necessarily, and there's definitely some of those vaccinations that kids just do not need, but it's not so much that they're bad. It's giving all of them, so many of them in a short period of time is the insane part.
Yeah. Mhm.
And there's tons of data now that proves that it links to so many different things, whether it's ADH. I mean, there's a lot of things out there that you know, people need to know about.
Yeah.
And the sad part is what you're talking about is the shaming, the you know, can't go to schools and all
Yeah,
that.
our
kind
kids
of
can't go to
stuff,
school.
right? Like,
it's nuts. So we homeschool, which
Yeah,
is,
yeah.
I mean, its own thing. And I never in a million years would I have thought we would be like a homeschool family. But the fact that we can't even send our kids to school even made me more so like lean that way.
Yeah.
I was like, wait, you're taking a right away from me
Yep.
because we're choosing not to get X, Y, and Z. If we lived in a third world country where, you know, medical access wasn't available, then okay, maybe we could talk. But we live next to some of the best hospitals in the world. And you're telling me like, I can't send my freaking daughter to first grade?
right, right.
Like it's nuts.
It is wild.
And I never thought these conversations would be a thing. And I just remember being like first time dad, right? And my wife's like, hey, how do you feel about the Schedule B? And I'm like, what are you talking about?
Yeah.
Like, isn't that what our doctor's for?
Right.
You know, because you should have trust in that medical professional.
Yep.
And then after that first birth, I was like, oh, hell no. Like, who is this guy?
Yeah.
Like, you know, like, and then I thought even more so, I was like, there's so many people that probably get bullied like that.
Mm-hmm.
And then they just do it because they're like, oh, am I a bad mom? Am I a
Right.
bad dad? Like, what, am I going to kill my kid?
Yep.
And for me, it was like, it did the opposite. I was like, nope, like, get out. Like,
Yeah.
and
Powers
I'll never forget her reaction. She was like, don't get us kicked out of the hospital. We just got, like, she
Yeah.
just got born. But
Yeah, I bet you any money. Unfortunately, the majority of people go the other direction where they just go along with it
Yeah.
versus, you know, it sounds like you were empowered to do something about it. And that needs to change. And the other thing, too, is you can't fully blame the doctors. Like, to me, they should know and they should be better educated on what's going on and not just follow what you learned in medical school. But they're not all doctors that focus on vaccination. So a lot of them don't really understand the research and really know what's out there, just simply because it's controlled.
Yeah.
Right. And so then they just go along with, well, this is what we do. This is what we need to do. And it's like, I don't know. So it's not all on the doctors. There just needs to be overall change.
Yeah.
Right. And that's really what this current administration is trying to do, and better educate doctors. And that kind of starts back all the way to schooling. And it's not so much, in my opinion, prepping people to be successful in this country. It's more indoctrination. Whatever path you go down, it's more about how can we, put these ideas in these people's heads to ultimately control them and get them into the workforce, and then push the ideas that we want them to push and believe in. And that is really in every career path, in my opinion. And with us, we're heavily dictated by the big insurance companies, right? Like they dictate to some extent how we treat based on what they're willing to pay for. Well, that was part why I started my company. I'm like, I'm not going to be that facility that is only providing services based on what we get paid by the insurance company. So that was really, in part, one of the reasons I built my company.
Yeah. Well, let's go into that because we kind of skipped through that. But tell us about you, who you are, and what you do, and we'll kind of pick questions from there.
Yeah. So like full introduction, like my name and everything?
Sure.
Yeah. So Dr. Chad Boshaw, originally from Michigan, grew up in upper Michigan, middle of nowhere, Iron Mountain, very small town, farm, fields, all that good stuff. Played a ton of sports growing up. Football was kind of my first passion. Along the way, ton of injuries, and in part we're in the middle of nowhere. So there wasn't as much education and information on now I know that should have been provided, I suppose. So I got injured a lot, so led me to a lot of physical therapy, even a fair amount of surgeries. And that really first kind of started my interest into the healthcare industry. And so as I planned on playing football in college, got recruited by Central Michigan, played football there for a very short period of time, and then again injured, and ended up stopped being an athlete, which was kind of for the first time ever was kind of an introspective look at myself, is that I'm no longer an athlete, which is what I've always identified with as who I am. So that was a whole kind of life experience in itself. But then very quickly kind of turned my focus to, okay, I want to go down this pathway, which was pre-med, and then ultimately kind of settled on physical therapy. And by my sophomore year, I was looking into PT schools. USC was number one for the longest time. So I was kind of dedicated my focus on that. So that's where I'm going to go. So all of my schooling was focused to go to SC, and my bachelor's degree was in exercise physiology and nutrition, and worked with the sports teams even after I was done at Central, and then went to USC. So got into their DPT program, Doctorate of Physical Therapy, in 2008. That's what brought me out to California. Spent 3 years there. It was a great experience. Really, SC is known for their research, so it's kind of the nuts and bolts of physical therapy. And as I was in PT school, started working with USC's football team a little bit, and started getting introduced into the multidisciplinary approach to medicine. And what does that mean? That means multiple different services or career paths. And in that scenario was athletic trainers, performance trainers, coaches, physical therapists, doctors, all collaborating with the main focus being getting this athlete efficiently and safely back to the field as quickly as we could. And I really liked that kind of focus and that collaborative team, which again, being an athlete my whole life, always on a team, something I really enjoyed. And so as I got that experience, decided that I wanted to go and do a sports certification. So the way you do that is you can do it a couple different ways, but the way I decided to do it was through a residency path. So I applied to the University of Cincinnati, one of the only schools in the country that you get to work with their D1 athletes while you're in the program. And so I ended up getting accepted into that. And so I went to there in 2011 and worked with their football team for a season, which was a great experience. And at that time, I always wanted to go to the NFL and work in the NFL as a PT. And then after that one season with Cincinnati, very quickly realized, like, this is not the lifestyle I want. Because, one, you're a grunt worker until you spend forever in those positions. And it's, 15, 16, 18-hour days when you're in season. So it was a bit much. But nonetheless, great experience. It was taking what I got introduced to at USC in the training room to a whole other level. And Cincinnati really does it at a phenomenal level, very much like the pros do, the NBA teams do. Baseball, like Boston Red Sox, they have a very good athletic training room. And so to me, it was a great experience. It helped me kind of drift away from, initially and what always my vision was being in the NFL to, okay, this was a great experience, not a negative, but I think maybe applying this to my own practice, and I thought about it and started looking throughout the country, is there a private practice that has all this under one roof? And at that time, it was a no. And so I came back from Cincinnati to California, worked at a sports PT clinic in Newport, been around for many, many years, provide a pretty standard, good product though, but very well known in the sports community. And spent 3 years there learning all that I could, and realized that about 2.5 years in, maybe even 2 years in, okay, I think if I want to do what I want to do, I'm going to have to do it on my own, because there really wasn't anything out there. And also I couldn't really do it at the facility I was at. So end of 2014, I decided, okay, it's time to kind of make the leap, jump off, do my own thing. And so in 2015, I started my practice, and right off the bat started bringing in chiro, acu, massage, personal trainers. And that was the launch of my company. We were in a hole-in-the-wall kind of personal training gym, one table in the corner, and just built from there. And through a lot of volunteering and putting myself out in the community, I got connected with USA Surf, so started doing all like the surf competitions. Through that, made a great connection through Tim Brown, who got me connected with USA Beach Volleyball. And I've now been a part of our Olympic beach volleyball medical team for going on 15 years this year. And so I've traveled all over the world with our Olympic men and women beach volleyball players, which has been an amazing experience, as that was one of my other goals, was to travel the world. Well, that's kind of challenging to do as a PT.
Yeah.
And so made connections through that, and really my company just kept growing from there. And over the last 11 years, we had our 10-year anniversary last year, it's really been, how can we continue to refine this product of ours? And it's always been about customer service first and foremost, and how can we, many of the things we already touched on.
Yeah.
How can we push back against this system that is very much controlled and dictated by the insurance companies? And so that was a part of my kind of passion into creating the company. And to me, that then created a business model that, okay, we need to be multifaceted in the sense of how we get paid has to be from multiple different sources and not just rely on the insurance companies, because they can then dictate how we treat based on what they pay us. And so that then led me down, okay, we need cash patients. We need to have better paying insurance companies, which are out there. And there's different ways of doing all that. I'll save you the boredom of how to do that. And so I started just always keeping, I think the moral of the story with my company is having a goal and really focusing on that goal, and not just having it geared around, I want to be a business owner or I want to make a lot of money. Like truly trying to make a difference, I think is impactful and can really push you through challenging times, which I'm very passionate about. Which then kept telling me, okay, you need to be more knowledgeable. You need to better understand this big system that we're in and what dictates and controls how people function within this big system, which then allowed me to, okay, I need to get more knowledge on how to run a business and how to create these different kind of revenue streams. And so all along the way, I'm learning how to do all those things on the business side of things. I never went to business school. Picked up mentors along the way, which were huge parts of my continued growth and success. And, that's gotten to where we are today, which is a pretty solid practice in Huntington Beach. And we service a lot of patients, all different levels. And back to, wanting to be in the NFL, I've partnered with many different sports agents to get NFL players in. And at this time, all kinds of different professional athletes. I have some UFC agents I work with, so we see a fair amount of the fighters and all different sports. And so I've been able to bring that kind of desire that I had from the beginning to me versus going to it. And I really enjoy it. I love building the team and being a part of the team. And after many, many years already doing this, very excited to continue to see where we go.
Yeah. Dude, I love that you said that there was a flaw in a system and the insurance dictated.
Yeah.
Right? Because I would like to, I'm such a good guinea pig for so many of these things. Like I was in the Marine Corps. It's when I got hurt. And, when I got out, it was you're young, and I went through 2 combat deployments. And so for me, it was like, I'm not going to complain about my busted up back because my buddy over here has no leg, so I'm not going to be the one to be like, hey, hang on, what about me?
Yeah.
And so you almost hide it, right? Because your pride, your ego, you're tough. Like also there's that sense of, for lack of better terms to describe what I'm trying to say is like survivor's guilt type thing, right?
Yeah.
And so you suck it up. You get out, you try to do the very minimum VA benefit claim because you don't want to claim that unless you're a freaking scumbag. That's all the guys that were the turds were the ones that got all the crazy disability. And I remember getting out, and my dad was like, "Hey, you need to do these things because, dude, you're gonna get messed up. Whether it's right now or not, it's gonna happen." And I was like, "No, Dad, I'm good." And then he brought me to a family friend of ours. We called him Three Dog. He had 2 of his fingers blown off in Vietnam, and he sat me down. He's like, "Yo, I'm gonna tell you like this. I was you. You think you're invincible. You have the survivor's guilt. You don't deserve this. You're a pansy, blah, blah, blah." He's like, "I'm taking you to the Long Beach VA. And we're going to get you in the system, and you're going to tell them what's wrong with you." And at the time, like, did I have aches and pains here and there? Yeah, of course. But again, I was 22. Like, you're a stud still, you know? And he's like, "It's going to happen. It's going to happen." And so he brought me, I got like 10% at the time. No insurance, no medical insurance or anything like that because it's through the VA. But anytime you had something wrong, you'd have to go through the VA. And half the freaking time something was wrong, like I broke my ankle one year. This was like 2011. And by the time the VA got me an appointment, my foot was already healed. But it healed wrong because I didn't stop doing life, right? I still had to work, we had already started our company. So, I was on my feet all the time working. And so they wanted to re-break my foot so it could heal. And I was like, "No, dude, like, you mean I ain't got time for that?"
Yeah.
And then issue after issue after issue. And the VA health system, it's getting better. It is. But, dude, it was awful. And so I would not take care of myself, or I would go find cash-paying places. And I spent over the last, 10 years probably, I would imagine at least 30 grand on trying to just get my body back to what it was and with no help. I finally, my VA disability rating's definitely not what it was back then because I understood now. I'm like, "Oh, shoot, dude, my body's messed up." And so I had to go through the process. And of course, it was I told you so's. But all that to say is I would like to think my body would probably be in a much better spot if I had somebody to actually advocate and take care of me.
Yeah.
And so I found those places like Kessler, who were really good to me. Because I couldn't afford a lot of this stuff back then.
Right.
It's expensive.
Yeah.
And if you're paying cash and if you need to be seen 3 times a week to have any sort of actual, recovery process, like actual growth, it takes a lot of work.
Yeah.
And, I couldn't afford that. And then it would go to, okay, well, let's try this place, or let's try to get the VA to pay for this claim. And, and then again, the VA system's just something that should take a day.
Yeah.
Takes 3 months.
Yeah.
And still to this day, I don't go to the VA. I pay out of pocket unless I'm dying. I'm not going to the VA.
Yeah.
And so I still find cash paying places.
Yeah.
And that's just how I've always done it.
Yeah.
But
and the insurance models are not much different than that. VA is a kind of a different beast, which, I've heard it's getting better, but that's such a disservice where it's if you did what you did, it should be you come back and you get a wellness screen just to see where you're at. And then from there, it's standard practice just to say you don't have to be necessarily hurt, but just what's going on. Let's get you in these programs to prevent injuries from popping up down the line. I mean, that to me is kind of what we do, which is a lot of education to our patients that you don't have to have your leg falling off in order to be coming here and to get an evaluation, right? Like, come to us, and we call it flipping the pyramid, which the pyramid model is anytime people get hurt, the first thing they think about is go to your doctor, right? Which is not a bad thought. But most of the time that doctor is going to spend, I don't know, a couple minutes. I think the average time is like 1:30 or something like that, right? And then he's going to give you maybe an x-ray, probably maybe an MRI, depending on what's going on. And then potentially that day, because they want to do something, give you a muscle relaxer, a painkiller, an anti-inflammatory, all without really getting to know what's going on. No actual diagnosis at that point. And so you're spending all this time, all this money, getting a bunch of pharmaceuticals when, in our opinion, let's flip that pyramid. Come to us first. You're going to spend 90 minutes going through a head-to-toe evaluation with us. We're going to see not only what specific injury you have, coming up with a diagnosis, which we're capable of doing without imaging, and also then lead to what are your compensatory movements, what potentially led to that injury happening if it wasn't traumatic and chronic over time. And we believe that we can give you a lot better results and then actually start doing that treatment right away, day one, not needing to do all the imaging and all the pharmaceuticals, like actually getting our hands on you day one. And if we do need to refer you out, well, then we've created a network of doctors that are going to spend the time with you, are not going to throw a bunch of pharmaceuticals at you right away. And if you do need imaging, it's because there's a certain thing that we're ruling out, and that's potentially may need to have surgery or do some type of injection like PRP or stem cell or something like that. So, yeah, again, that's kind of at the foundation of why I started the company. It was because of some of these, these regular treatment models that the average person that we're all a part of, you just don't know any better. For the longest time, we've just trusted that whether it's your worker, that your employer that you work for and providing this insurance for you, and you're going to use that, and you're going to go to the doctor, and whatever the doctor says, he has your best interests at heart. And it's not that they don't necessarily have your best interest, but they are working within a very contained box most of the time. And I think people are starting to really realize post-COVID that you have to be your own self-advocate, right? And it's unfortunate when you hear veterans have to do that and put it out of their pocket, and we can't take care of them, in a better model.
Yeah. I mean, you can definitely get care, but it's at the same time, it's like, I don't have time to constantly go back.
Yeah.
My dad, he's a vet as well, and he goes to the VA Long Beach all the time, and he has great success. But for me, I'm like, dude, like, I don't have time to like keep going back. Like, I don't have that ability.
Yeah.
Right. And I get irritated. And so then I just try to find somewhere that will take me, and then I pay the cash for it. But I'm like, at what point does that get fixed?
Right. Yeah, you shouldn't have to do that.
No.
Yeah.
It's kind of crazy.
Yeah.
But I think with treatment and care too, I think there's a misconception that they aren't needed for just like a daily healthy life. And that's something I wish I also knew when I was younger, because I was like, oh, I'm not hurt right now.
Yeah.
But little did I know how weak my, left hip flexor was, and it was causing me to stand funky. And, there's a reason why I would favor this side, and now your body works in that zigzag. And I think there's just not enough, I guess, user-friendly information out there to the common person, unless you're going to take the time to dive into it, And I think it sounds like that you guys are trying to educate people in that.
Yeah, that's a huge piece of what we're doing. And that's also where having the multiple different services all under one roof come into play, right? Because, most of the time patients come to us because they're hurt. But through that entire time period, we're educating them on maintenance and wellness, right? So talking about nutrition and how that plays a factor in your healing, but then also afterwards, maintaining results and just living a better lifestyle. And even if they're not hurt, going into one of our recovery programs, just getting stretched out or doing deep tissue body work and learning about acupuncture and how that can help manage stress and depression and sleep better and how important sleep is. And so all of those things are definitely ingrained in what we do. And I think it's, my biggest takeaway outside of helping people recover from their injuries is really being able to say, hey, my life was on this path, and then they came into us, and because of all the education, they started going down a little bit better path, and they started making a little bit better choices. And maybe they started, looking into nutrition a little bit more and realizing like how bad our food is in this country, right? And, going down that path and realizing like, you know what, maybe my doctor doesn't have all the answers, and I do need to start looking into maybe a little bit more holistic kind of pathway. So that's really, when I hear those stories, when we hear them quite often, like that truly to me is the success that I ultimately wanted to have with this company.
Yeah.
I love that. Yeah, like when I told you about my stroke earlier, and the way I recovered was, you leave and they left me with a box of pills, like just crazy things I couldn't pronounce, or even like you couldn't pay me to spell.
Yeah.
And then so my mom like grabbed me and she was like, this is something we've been doing since I was a kid. My mom was like, hey, we're going to go see a friend of ours who's a naturopath and deals more in vitamins and all that kind of stuff. Let's have her take a look at your blood. Let's go get a blood panel done. Let's do all this different stuff. And then she was like, she was a sweet lady. She just retired. Didn't look like a day over like 63, and she was like 84.
Oh, wow.
She was just crazy. And she was like, okay, bring all your pills in. Let's go through them. And so she literally was like, okay, let's take these away. I can give you one of these. It was like vitamin K or C, just was like replacing stuff. She's like, blood thinners. Like I stayed on one of my gnarly blood thinners just because mentally it made me nervous.
Yeah.
Rightfully so, right?
Yeah.
I was like, I got kids to take care of. But she was like, start by taking more fish oil. If you take massive amounts of fish oil, it's actually a blood thinner. She's like, so start adding more fish oil, start dialing that back. And it's so funny. I went back 6 months later for my checkup, and they were like, what did you do? And I was like, what do you mean what I do? They're like, you have the blood of like an 18-year-old. They're like, your panels are incredible. We've never seen panels like this before. And then I was like, oh yeah, I went to this person. And they're like, oh yeah, like, oh, yeah, just whatever you did, just keep doing that. And
Yeah,
I was like, oh, we're definitely sweeping that under the rug. But yeah, there's just, I don't think enough people take the time to get educated. And my wife and I talk about this all the time, and I might be putting on my tinfoil hat for this one. But it's like, I see this a lot with schooling. I see it with a lot of different things. One of it being the medical industry is that people don't want to question things that they've built their whole identity and life around. And like, I see a lot of these doctors where they don't necessarily want to go outside and start looking at other things, because then they have to go, okay, I just spent $500,000 getting educated, and most of it's probably not true. So why did I spend all that money? And they built their whole mind and their identity. And then it's like, okay, well, if I start questioning one thing, I have to question everything. And I don't want to go down that road. So you know what we're doing? We're just going to keep following the playbook just the way that we're supposed to stay in the track that we're supposed to stay in. Let's just stay in our lane.
Yep.
And it's like, no, that's not good. Like, I went to paramedic school, and my paramedic teacher, he's like, hey, like, study everything and anything you can while you're going, because he's like, don't be the paramedic, though, that when you graduate, that's the smartest you ever are. He's like, and there's so many people that you finish and you get your license, and that's the smartest that they were ever. Yeah. And they don't take their learning outside of that. And so, I don't know, that's just...
That's good advice.
Having moments like that where it's like, hey, it's okay to like challenge the system and the beliefs that you've been put in. Yeah.
Well, you touched on our healthcare system is not a healthcare system. To me, it's a sick care management system, right? The focus is not about healing. It's really not. It's about managing your sickness. And most of the time, you don't get to the core of why did this happen? And is there anything that I can do more naturally in order to operate at a higher level? No, they just want to throw medication at it. And again, it's not necessarily to the fault of the doctor, because that's the way they're trained. That's the model that they're in, the box that they're in, especially if they work at a Kaiser or a hospital. They have oversight over all of that. Like, they can't just, in general, be tossing, nutrients at them and supplements. Like, it's literally against what they can do. And I've talked to many doctors about that, where they won't even go down that path because they get in trouble. Yeah. And that to me is just insane. Yeah. But it really does confirm that they're just in this box and they're not a nutritionist, and so therefore they can't be more holistic, and that's a huge problem, right?
That's
Especially when the
crazy.
healthcare system
Yeah.
is too many people just trust it for what it is.
And most people won't go to bat for themselves. They
No.
just won't, or they don't want to, or, I mean, it's a weird thing, right? And COVID was like the biggest identifier of it was like, you have these medical professionals that, you know, maybe your family's been going to for 30 years and they're trusted, and you know, you would let your child go with them, and, you know, they're supposed to be this trusted person. And then, you know, that person, when you look back at everything that was happening, was also trying to figure out everything.
Right.
So how can they be trusted? They weren't even trying to necessarily not be trusted.
Yeah.
You know, they were trying to figure out the same stuff we were trying to figure out.
Yeah.
And then it just kind of like put into perspective where I'm like, dude, like, it's not even that they don't want to, like we just said.
Yeah.
But sometimes I feel like they just don't even care to, because you are a number in a system.
Yeah.
And you just go through the wheel cog of the medical system, and no one is there to help you.
Well, I think a lot of them too. It's not like in a negligent way, but they were under like the don't. If it's not broke, don't fix it. And it's like, okay, well, I've been taught my entire life. I went to medical school. They give us our standards. I follow our standards, and that's just the way that it's been since forever.
Yeah.
You know. And so then this happens, and everyone's like, "Wait, what do you mean I was wrong?" And then it's like, "What? I was just doing what we've always done and what I was taught and told. What do you mean it's not correct?"
Yeah.
And it's like, yeah, I don't know. It was we went down a road.
We
Yeah.
did. It's not the podcast I thought we were going to have today, but it makes me happy too,
Yeah.
because I think people need to hear this. Like,
For sure.
it's, and I say it with everything too. It's not just medical. It's our whole freaking
Right.
society, right? Like, actually take the time to look something up that matters to you. And, you know, it's crazy because when it comes to vaccinations, for example, you can have one vaccination with 1 million articles on this side and 1 million articles on this side.
Right.
How the heck is the average person supposed to find out the truth?
Right. Yeah.
You know, when there's, I can take the same argument and I can make a case on both sides, because here's quote unquote research data that supports both claims.
Yep.
How can you have both claims? Like, there's only one evidence that can be true.
Right.
So how do we normal people figure that out?
Yeah. I think that's really tough. And you touched on it in the sense of you have to be self-motivated in order to go down that path to even ask that question.
Yeah.
Right. And I think if you are starting to go down that path, so many people are afraid to go down that path, because if that is not true, the whole system starts to crumble in your head. And then you start to question everything, right? Like, do I actually need to pay taxes? Right? Is there global
Matrix
warming?
happens.
Right?
Yeah.
Like, everything starts to fall apart. And so a lot of people, I think, are just like, nope, don't want to go down that path.
Yeah.
But you're 100% correct. When you have research on both sides, it's like, where's the actual truth? What do I
Yeah.
actually do? And for that, I think when it comes to healthcare and pharmaceuticals, like, any time that it's a company, a private company that has a board of directors and investors, and the bottom line is about making more money, that's really scary when it comes to healthcare.
Yeah.
Right? Because at the end of the day, their main focus is making money.
Yeah.
Right? And you can't necessarily blame them. And a lot of really good things can come from that, but also a lot of things can be pushed in order to make more money.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's not necessarily in the best interest of the patient in that case.
Yeah, and that's what just makes it so freaking hard,
Yeah.
which adds to what's the right way.
Yeah.
And I think my best advice to that, if you're listening, is you got to do what you think is right for you and your family. And that, at the end of the day, is all you can do, you know? I'm super glad Jordan introduced us, because, like, I'm obviously clearly really into this stuff.
Yeah.
Not by choice, or by choice,
Yeah.
because of my bodily limitations.
Yeah.
But my wife and I she teases me. She's like, honestly, I think this is God's way of slowing you down. Like, all the injuries I have.
Yeah.
Because the amount of stuff I'm not trying to toot my own horn, but the amount of stuff I do currently on the body that I have is crazy. So if I was healthy, maybe I would be doing some psychotic stuff.
Yeah.
So who knows?
Yeah. I mean, the physical, I should say, the emotional load, the stress of, you know, the mental wear and tear, the energetic wear and tear can absolutely physically manifest
Yeah.
in many different ways, right? And that goes back to, you know, what do men especially do to manage some of that energy, that emotional stress and strain that we all go through. But not a lot of times do you actually process and work on it. And so I talk to my patients a lot about that, in the sense of like, okay, if you want to get stronger, what do you need to do? Well, I go to the gym X amount of time. I do this, I do that to get stronger, because physically I need to be stronger. Okay, if you want to eat healthier, what do you do? Okay, I need to know what to eat and what not to eat and all of those things. Okay, so those are those two components. What do you do for your mental, spiritual, and energetic side of things?
Yeah.
And most people are like, huh?
Yeah.
Well, I don't know. And sure, some people have a strong faith, and that's awesome, and that's great, and that's very important. But what about from an emotional standpoint?
Yeah.
Like, you know, there's many different things to do to help process the different stress and strains of the world. And it doesn't always have to be, you know, someone died or, you know, something really awful happened in order for you to seek assistance and or help in order to process things. Like, it can just be the everyday wear and tear and grind of life that you ultimately should go to the gym and do your physical reps, but really it's from an emotional standpoint. What's your emotional reps in order to process a lot of that stuff? And so that's been a personal focus of mine over probably last 8 years or so, and really looking more on, you could call it the Eastern side of things. And, you know, whether that's breath work or, you know, emotional trauma healing, you know, chatting with different people that work in that energy space, or even doing psilocybin or ayahuasca. I went to Costa Rica and did an ayahuasca retreat, and that changed my entire life. And so those are just some of the things that I started getting interested in, and, you know, it makes profound changes in your life. And I think it really helps you to start understanding some of the ways you feel or do things, and puts a lot of things in perspective for you.
Yeah. Well, we've noticed too, when it comes to the emotional side, even just with this little platform that we have, like almost every guy talks about, you know, we're always conditioned as men to suck it up, right? To like you admitting that you have emotional problems, you're now weak, right? Or you're not as tough. And it's like, the more we've had these conversations, the more, you know, we realize like that's actually true strength to be able to admit that, right?
Yeah.
To be able to sit there and be like, yo guys, like I'm not doing so good right now. I got the weight of the world on my shoulders, the weight of my business, the weight of my 50 employees, my family. Jordan's counting on me today. Like that's heavy.
The three
right?
most dangerous words a man can say is "I got this."
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, you can have it for a season, but it takes reps, like you said. I can't go and put 315 on the bar right now and just bench it, even though I haven't benched in like 5 years.
Yeah.
Like, it's just not going to happen.
Right.
Right. Like, I understand that. It would take me months of building reps to be able to do that again.
Yep.
And it's the same thing when it comes to our emotional, our mental, like your faith. If you believe in faith, like it takes work, right? You have to get up or sometime throughout the day and you have to study it. You know, you had to study medicine and the body and nutrition. You had to study it when you were in paramedic school. Like when I was in business school, I had to study these things, you know? And I think it just gets so pushed aside because you're a man.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Like it's not cool, or you're not tough. And, dude, it's something as simple as, and we have referenced this so many times since that episode. But a guest of ours, and he's become a friend now, his name's Tim, and he, crazy addict, almost died in the parking lot here of heroin with a needle in his neck. And so when he came to do the podcast, he was like kind of thrown off because he said he hasn't been back here since then, right?
Yeah.
And so when we got here, or when he walked in, we were like, oh no, like Jordan's like, what did I do? 'Cause he was just so off. And he even apologized after. He's like, sorry guys, I'm a little like thrown off. I haven't been here. That was a crazy part of my life, yada, yada, yada. But he was talking through this stuff because he works in that space now. And he was just saying, like, as a man specifically, when you see one of your friends or a peer, another man, release and like stand up or raise their hand or confess, hey, I'm going through whatever.
Yeah.
It's you're giving the other men permission around you to also experience that with you.
Yep.
And, you know, it is a man thing. And the egos, the pride, the testosterone, all of it, you know, come into play. And again, the conditioning that we're taught growing up, you know, like don't be soft.
Yeah.
And I think I used to think that way.
Yeah.
Like hardcore.
Absolutely.
Right? Like it's probably why it took me so long to get my life together after the Marine Corps, you know, because I was tough.
Right.
And I didn't want to be soft. And, you know, now looking back at it, I'm like, dude, you were actually a freaking baby, you know, but you had to put this front on.
Yeah.
And because it was much easier to put a front on than to sit there and actually face your demons.
Right.
You
Do
know?
the hard stuff. Yeah.
Yeah. But we've had numerous conversations now just about this.
Yeah.
Just talking about things. And for Jordan and I, we say it all the time, but like we get like a free front row ticket every week when we do an interview. You know, being able to have these conversations, it keeps us sharper. It keeps us more balanced. It keeps us grounded. And the other big component to what I'm saying and rambling on about is it makes other guys hear that they're not alone in it.
Yeah.
And that I think is one of the most powerful switches.
Yeah.
So
Well,
I love that you're doing that.
Another big component of that too is more recently the toxic masculinity too, right? Like people don't even know, or men don't even know what truly is a man nowadays. Because if I am too tough or too masculine, then that's toxic. That's bad. And then if I'm way over here, well, I'm too soft. I can't be a provider. So it has gotten extremely confusing, and like, what do I actually do as a man? Right?
Yeah.
And so it's not as easy, as straightforward as maybe seemingly, even if it was wrong or not the best way, being super tough and strong. And,
Yeah.
you
At
know,
least
in the
you knew what
past.
you're supposed to be.
At least you knew what you're supposed to do, right? Be the provider.
Yeah.
Be the protector, all of those things. And now you're like, I don't know what to do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right. So it's gotten even more challenging.
Oh, 100%. Yeah, we talk about that a lot. It's, I don't know. It's a shame that's where our society's gone to.
But there's people like us all in this room right now, and a lot of the guests we've had that can help do what we can in our own spheres of influence, right?
Yeah.
And that's what gives me hope is when we got into this, like a year in, I start obviously my Instagram algorithm and stuff started to change, and it was like just a bunch of dudes doing all these different things. And we had a conversation on it. I was like, oh shoot, like, guy, like Jordan, we're not alone in what we're trying to do.
No.
And it like gave me like it sounds so cheesy and lame, but it gave me like this like invigoration to like, oh, like we can do this.
Yeah.
There's so many of us doing our parts in whatever it is. Like, let's go, you know, like let's take it back.
Yep.
And it's, you know, and for whatever that's worth, when it's your health, like your manlyhood, your being a leader, in your marriages and your whatever it is, you know, like take it back.
Yeah. Yeah. And it is a shame, but at the same time, I think there's a lot of positivity to it too. Exactly what you're mentioning and talking about. It's okay to talk about it. Let's do something with this. It's time to go a bit deeper. You know, let's figure out what to be a man is. Let's carve a new path forward. Let's make some changes. And so I think there's, as challenging and as crazy as the world seemingly currently is, I think it's somewhat of a rebirth too, and it's the bigger picture of it all is ultimately we're all, you know, maybe Americans, and we're a part of this empire that's been so powerful for so long, 250 years this year. Well, all empires eventually end, right? And normally towards the end, they get really soft, right? And all these weird things start to happen. You don't know the difference between a male and a female, and you know, you're going through all this crazy stuff, and you're expanding too wide and forgetting about the core of the people that, you know, made it, the empire, what it is. And so we're in that. So that's a lot of chaos of its own. And I think that goes back to the individual. Like the only way, how can you make a difference? I think it starts with yourself, right? Focus on yourself, educate yourself, be a self-advocate, be passionate about something. Like make sure you get up every day and do something with your life, you know? And for me, it's being grateful every step of the way. And I think going down the more spiritual pathway, my faith is a big part of that. Believing in God's a big part of that. But it empowers me that no matter what I'm going through, I'm very grateful for each step of the way. And instead of looking at things as like, man, the world's out to get me, or whatever this is, it's the end, I can look at it as, no, that's just another challenge. How can I learn from this? How can I be empowered by this? And on the other end of it, just be a better person overall. I think that's how you start to make a difference.
Yes.
And it doesn't happen overnight.
No.
Like it was I was very, it sounds bad, but I was very proud of myself this week. I hit like, I was just slammed at slammed doing stuff for work, and I got home. I was like, hey, I'm gonna be done for the day, and then I ended up going back downstairs and working for like 3 more hours. She came down, or my son came down I work out of our room. He came down in our room. He's like, hey, Dad, I just want to hang out. I was like, okay, cool. Next thing I know, my daughter came down. Next thing I know, my wife came down, and the baby was sleeping. And I was like just going. And then I was like done for the day. And I just was like so fried. And like I stood up for a second, and I just like looked at our bed, and it was like my wife and my 2 of my 3 kids. And instead of complaining about my day, the first thing in my mind went to was I was like, gosh, I'm so blessed.
Yeah.
And I just like said it out loud. My wife goes, what? And I go, we're so blessed. And she goes, what do you mean? I was like, we have food.
Yeah.
I was like, we have cars. I was like, I have this beautiful family. I have a smoking hot wife.
Yeah.
I was like, I have kids that are sitting together, like playing right here. I was like, I get to work from home.
Yeah.
I was like, I get to watch you guys grow up. I didn't die a few years ago.
Right.
And I just like, I went off for like 5 minutes of things I was grateful for. And then like I looked at my wife, was like crying. And I was like, I don't know where that came from. I was like, because like my brain wanted to go, I'm so tired. And I know you're going to ask me what's for dinner. And I have no idea. But I was just like, we're getting takeout tonight. Like that's what we're doing.
Yeah.
Like I was like, and I have money to get takeout.
Right.
I was just like, my life is so awesome. And I was like, even though we've been doing this for so long, a year ago, I don't know if I would have like put my laptop away and done that. I probably would have, freaking complained about something.
Mm-hmm.
And I was just like, and in that moment, like we walked away a few minutes later and my wife was like still kind of teary eyed. And I was just like, I was so stoked at the response that I had. And I was like, that's just a lot of hard work put in for a long period of time to get one moment like, I mean, I'm sure I've had other moments like that, but just to have a one moment like that, totally worth it. I was like, I would do it all again to have that one response, that one time again, just like that.
Yep.
And I'm like, wasn't like a Yay Jordan thing, but like, it was awesome.
No, I think that's at the core of it. That's a purpose-driven life, right?
Yeah.
When you have a purpose-driven life, you can be in those moments and it's very gratifying.
Yeah.
And, you're grateful for it. And I think that's a great point is, someone that's listening, maybe they don't have all of that. Yeah. Well, figure out your purpose. Like I really do believe at the core of everything, you have to have a purpose in your life. Otherwise you can just be on the rat wheel going all day long, working really hard. And then you're like, yeah, I'm frustrated. I'm tired. And sure, you can have those emotions too. Yeah. Those are okay. But I think when you have a purpose and you're grinding away to not necessarily even accomplish something, but just to keep going down a path that you're excited about and passionate about, it leads to those types of responses.
Yeah.
That's what makes life great. And what makes everything we're all talking about great. And it starts with advocating for yourself. Mm-hmm. I feel like that's the message of today's episode is advocate for yourself.
You looping it all the way back to the beginning.
That's what I'm here for, baby.
Yeah. I love it.
Yeah, because I didn't advocate for myself, and look where that got me. Just kidding.
You are now.
I am now. It took me a while, but here we are.
For sure.
I'm going to kind of tailor this towards you.
Yep.
What is one bit of advice that you would, well, you can do either or. You can do, what's one bit of advice you want to give someone who's trying to be a better person? But I would almost say, like, what's one bit of advice that you wish that you would give to somebody that was, like, either coming into your clinic or before they come into your clinic, or just, like, holistic life advice for a patient?
Mm-hmm. Well, I think we already touched on several of those, but to me, it's the purpose, have a purpose, and then really do your best to figure out what gratitude is. I think it's one of the most powerful emotions, feelings that we can have. And emotion is more than just feeling. It is truly an energy state. And what does that mean? Energy has different levels of frequencies. And at the end of the day, all of this is just a bunch of frequencies at different levels that creates that table, creates this body, creates how I feel. And when you can be in a state of love or a state of gratitude, those are way higher frequencies than being in the state of hate or frustration. And so figuring that stuff out is important. So education, I mean, educate yourself to the best of your ability. It goes back to self-advocacy. Like, you really ultimately have to care about yourself, right? I think with so much going on at all times, whether it's the world itself, whether it's your financial state, whether it's your relationship state, it can all seem very, very overwhelming. And where do I start? It has to start with yourself, right? You have to be a good partner for yourself. You have to put the work into yourself because you ultimately care about you. And that's really hard for a lot of people. It's really hard to love someone else unconditionally if you don't love yourself unconditionally. And that takes work in order to figure out how can I truly do that. And for me, it's been much about my faith in God, but putting in the work, educating myself on what is out there, what is all this different stuff. And that led me down the path of, putting fuel in my body is important because ultimately I am a machine. If I don't put good fuel in, well, how can I expect to be productive or feel the way I want to feel, right? Yeah. So I think it opens up a lot of doors when you start, at ground one, which is ultimately with yourself. And there's so many different ways of doing that, which again takes education as far as what are all those different ways. But I think you can start by step one is making the choice that, hey, I want to ultimately throughout this lifetime become a better and better person, not for anyone else, but for me. And by doing that, that's not selfish. That's only going to enrich the life of other people around me because I'm complete. Because I love myself unconditionally, now I'm able to give what's pouring out of my cup into other people's cup. And so I think that's really where you can start with this whole process.
Yeah. I love that, man.
Yeah. So well said.
I like a simple way of that, which I never understood up until probably the last season of my life, is the putting on the oxygen mask on yourself first before you help someone else on an airplane. Yeah. When I was younger and in the Marine Corps, I was like, bro, what? That's so selfish. I'm going to help all these other people before me. And I would literally sit there sometimes after that's just how my brain would go back then. And I'd be like, that old lady can't do it for herself. I got to get to her first. And then this mom and this kid. And, and then I was like, then I'll put mine on. And when you think about it, like, yeah, in theory, that sounds cool. You want to be like, the hero, Rambo, right? Yeah. But how much oxygen do you have left to give after that? Right. Maybe none. Yeah. And
we're all, society like trains us to be that way, right? And that like you said, it's selfish. Well, that's the ego kicking in. But I hear a fair amount like the ego's a bad thing. No, the ego is not. The ego is actually you, by the way. It's not this random voice in your head. But the ego likes to take the driver's seat. I kind of use this example. The ego wants to jump in the driver's seat and direct you one way or another, or tell you something's really bad or this is really good. And you don't want the ego being in the driver's seat. You want the ego. You want to have a really good relationship with the ego because ultimately it is you, but put them in the back seat. Like, the ego is there to protect you. Ultimately, it's your survival kind of part of you. Yeah. And they ultimately do care about you and want you to make the best choices. But when they get too empowered, that's when the ego's not in a great place. But what I've also heard actually taught to a lot of people is, bury the ego. Don't listen to it. Put it down there. And it's like, no. That's a part of you. You need to have a good relationship. It is ultimately there for your benefit. So have a good relationship with yourself. And that's your ego.
Yeah.
That was really good. This is shameless plug time.
Yeah.
Where can people find you? Where can they find your practice?
Instagram.
Yeah. This is for like I link everything down below in the video. But this is for the audio listeners.
For sure. So Repair Sports Institute, we are on all social media platforms at Repair Sports. Okay. We're located in Huntington Beach, Ettinger and Golden West by Golden West College. That's our physical location. But we do put a lot of good information out there on TikTok, Instagram, YouTube. We got a bunch of videos. But yeah, that's us in a nutshell.
Awesome.
Well,
we
thank
appreciate
you for coming on.
Yeah,
sure.
Thank you.
Thank you for having me.
Ben, thank you as always.
Thank you, fellas.
Thank you. And guys, remember, be a good dude.